Good morning, GDC. Welcome again to the Audiokinetic Theater. This morning, it's my great pleasure to introduce Gustaf, who will be walking us through the music of It Takes Two. And this is an interactive session, meaning questions are welcome at any point. Just wait for me to come with the mic. And so if it was just a presentation, we could just put it on YouTube. Please interrupt us. So, Gustaf, take us away.
Okay. Okay, you can hear me pretty clearly, I think. So we will start with just a short slide. So this presentation is about It Takes Two, the music, and how we worked as two composers simultaneously. So, of course, there are many ways to do this, but I would like to show you a bit more unusual way we did this. So, who am I? Well, my name is Gustaf Grefberg. I have worked on music for quite a few titles for the past 20 years or so, both with music and sound design. You might recognize some of those titles. So, what are we going to focus on? We're going to focus on one slice of the game. So I'm not going to talk to you generally about the soundtrack, but how we collaborated on making the music for Snowtown, which was, of course, implemented using Wwise. But the presentation is more about the art side of it and how we brought it all together. So the main part of the level consists of vertical layers of music that grow in intensity. So the whole idea with this level is that when the characters arrive, the whole town is frozen in ice, and all the denizens of the city are also frozen as statues. And as you reach each church tower, the city will start unfreezing and people will wake up. So we had all kinds of different ideas on how to achieve this effect. And we didn't want to make it too obvious, so you just hear the music changing. So we wanted to make something very smooth. You just later on will just realize that, oh my God, everything is alive, and the music is alive too, to reflect this experience. So what we did, this is a collaboration with a composer called Kristofer Eng. So he made the main orchestration, the main melody, the full orchestra version, while I started with the frozen ambient version. And the idea was then to meet in the middle. And of course, we couldn't work on exactly the same melodies at the same time. So while he was working with the orchestration, I was working with the introduction music before you reach the town. Can you hear it? Okay, good. So everything is very ambient, very still, very frozen. We used a lot of bells, icy, slow strings, even making it sound a little bit like it's been slowed down as well. Can move forward a little bit, and the game will enter a cinematic.
Hey, Cody. You remember this town?
Yeah, of course. This is where we spent our first Christmas together.
What's happened here? Used to be so busy.
I know. Where is everyone?
Yes! Where are they? This town used to be like your relationship. Alive and fun! Yeah! But look at it now. Silent, dead, frozen. You need to wake it up from its winter sleep.
How are we gonna do that, genius? There's ice everywhere.
Use your magnets.
Magnets don't melt ice.
Exactly! But the bells in this town can break the ice. Now, break the ice and get your prize! Woo!
So here you can see the tracks laid up with transitions. Before we start playing this, I will explain a little bit. So first we had the horizontal transition from the introduction music into the cinematic. And then we reach a block which is called vertical tracks. So basically you can crossfade one track seamlessly into one to another, and it starts adding instrumentation and intensity as you wish. And it will do so with each church tower that's being activated. So now they activate one. You have the glockenspiel coming in, for example, adding a little bit of strings. And just to pause a little bit, so at this point, Kristofer had already made the full orchestrated version, and he provided me with all the MIDI data for his project, which I then made with the same bells and ambient sounds as the intro. And then we both started working together bit by bit and reached in the middle. Now they're starting to wake up. We started adding the choirs to reflect the human voices, that they're living people entering. So now we enter the next stage. And you can start hearing the orchestra coming in, the flutes, the strings. But you can also hear that the story of the music is uninterrupted. It doesn't restart when you reach the next stage. But here we made something slightly different. Because the track has a theme, and we wanted when we reached the final stage, we wanted to have a little bit more of an epic event when everything has become unfrozen. So here we play a stinger transition segment and actually restart the track from the beginning as an exception. And when they enter the elevator again, we lower it again, take it down a notch. But I can show you a difference. So if we play the music at its highest level, so now you can really tell the difference if I go back to the first level. But did you notice this shift right away, or did it feel seamless? So, because we wanted the town to wake up gradually as they are unlocking it. So let's continue. So the music goes down, crossfades down to the third level. Stay right up the elevator. And we enter the after ski. So the crossfade there is nothing fancy because it wasn't necessary, because there's a very strong elevator sound that takes care of that. Now we enter the bobsled section, and here we also used dynamic music. And before I start playing it, we made another collaboration here, but instead of making two separate tracks, we collaborated on the same track. So here I made the main melodies, arpeggios, and orchestration that you will hear. And Kristofer added the live percussion, an electric cello that you will hear, among other things. And also changed a few segments. And here we play a stinger. So they go up in air. And then we return back to the main track. And again, switch tracks, land. Yeah, so that's another example of vertical implementation. Does anyone have any questions about this part? Yeah?
When they take off and they like are in air, is that like a trigger from when they take off on that little port?
Yeah, it's basically a trigger inside the level.
Okay.
So let's see if I can show you this segment better. So this is the main track. I can show you at a different part. And we have a parallel track that is just like this. So the moment you hit the jump, it just crossfades here into this track. It has the same musical structure. And when you land, you play a stinger. And of course, there are sound effects here too, but I wanted to play it only with music so you could get the musical content also. You go like this. And then like that. All right, let's continue.
Is there an OST for It Takes Two?
What did you say?
Can we get like the music on?
Well, it's on YouTube and on Spotify, so you can find it anywhere.
Sorry,
so
it's the first time I hear this, and I'm blown away.
Go have a listen.
Go on.
Go have a listen for sure. And then we end this level with another cinematic.
How are we supposed to get to the top of the mountain from here?
Oh, come on! The lighthouse will take you to the top of the mountain. Just follow its light.
But the light's not on.
Sometimes. Here! The answer is hidden beneath the surface. Dive in and dive deep.
That looks chilly. I don't do well in cold water.
And then it enters the next sub-level, which is the lake, which keeps a fairly similar style to the music, but it's no longer vertical, but more linear as we go. And this went a little bit faster than I thought it should, but so let's do a lot of questions. Just anything related to this, anything related to the sound to It Takes Two.
We have a question.
Were you involved in like the coding of like when the music happens, you know, the triggers and all that nonsense?
Well, more like scripting than coding. We have a dedicated sound programmer who helps set up the systems. In this case, most of the logic is actually made inside Wwise. So you import the audio, and set up different playlists and music segments, and then it has a transition section, so I can tell how different tracks transition from each other. And then inside the level editor in Unreal, I can trigger these transitions through triggers in the level. Sometimes it's through game events, for example, when the church bell is hit. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Because it's a linear game, the implementation is actually fairly simple in most cases. We were focusing mostly on the art and the flow.
So which level did you enjoy the most, like creative-wise? Which one did you gave you more an opportunity to explore, and why?
Oh, I would say the music level with the disco, the Guitar Hero game with the music notes, the disco ball. I was very involved in that level, and I have a huge passion for the 80s as well. So that was like, yay, we're going to do 80s with pastels, and I was completely psyched. While my co-composer loves rock, and he's like, I'm going to do rock, and we were actually doing them simultaneously.
I was curious about your process writing these pieces before they go into Wwise, kind of knowing that there are going to be all of these dynamic transitions and layers and things like that.
Yeah.
How do you go about structuring those things in your DAW session? Or how do you think about writing the piece, knowing how it's going to be broken apart or converted into stems and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, in this case, they're not actually played as stems in Wwise. They're actually five fully baked music tracks. I tend to lean to, I only use stems when I have to, because I don't like, if I don't have to mix things with the game engine, I don't do it. If it can be mixed and it works just as well in content, it saves so much time, so much mixing and quality, because I can use mastering plugins and things I otherwise couldn't use. But as far as setting up the music, what we usually do is we make a rough sketch of the music to video, to gameplay video first, when we try out the styles with the director. And then we start breaking them up. Okay, what do we need here? Okay, this one needs to be dynamic. This one needs a transition. And then we break it down into a list. And we just roll up our sleeves and get to it, basically.
I've been hearing a lot of composers talk about it's more popular to have two composers on one project. But I always wonder like how you guys communicate as far as sessions. Do you share a template, and how do you communicate like which VSTs you're using and which like processes that you're using?
That's a really good question. In general, we use the same VSTs and same plugins. Sharing entire sessions with big music libraries is actually really difficult. I have two workstations myself, one home studio and one at the office at Hazelight, and even getting them compatible with between two computers, sometimes they don't load. I have the same Reaper version, same Contact version, same everything, and some can even crash. So we tend to have it a little bit more open, and we instead share stems, MIDI data, and we use the same VSTs. That tends to work better.
What do you mean when you say you produce certain tracks in a linear or vertical fashion?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Okay, so I will show you. So I can... So basically horizontal is if you have one music track playing, that's only one music track playing, and then you want to transition into another music track that comes after it, like for example this one. That's horizontal. It moves horizontal on the timeline, where if it's vertical, I actually have 5 tracks lined up underneath each other, which has exactly the same musical structure, but with different instrumentations and intensity, so they can then be cross-faded like this, as you see here. like that. So it goes vertically into the other. Did I answer your question? Good.
Yeah, I was wondering, taking into consideration that each level in this game is like fairly different, with like different mechanics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As well as the fact that it's like primarily plays as a co-op. Did you all have any kind of like internal rules in terms of like when a single player could trigger a piece of music or like a stinger versus like something that needed both players to complete something to trigger a musical change?
That's an excellent question. In most cases, we had because the way the game is played, we found that it works pretty well to just let the first player. They're generally together in most cases. So the first player that reaches the new point tends to dominate it. So let's say you have ambience and then a boss fight. What's most important? Well, the one who's triggering the boss is most important. So we just transition to that. But in some areas, we had to make sure that both players had to be there before they made the transition. So then we have a different type of event, the trigger that checks that both players has entered or just touched the trigger, and then we make the event. So it's very contextual which type of priority we use.
Thank you, Gustav. Can I get like a warm round of applause?